Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to a video, and today we'll be doing the part 3 of the build video for the ZMR210R. So you can see in part 1 and 2, we fully completed the build, and now for part 3, we'll be doing the computer setup, which involves the ESCs and the flight controller here. And I just want to mention, point out once again that the files for the camera mount that bolts straight in the frame for the GoPro Session, as well as now the new SMA holder to come out the back here, are now available on the Thingiverse. I'll leave a link down below in the description if you want to get those. Really big thanks to Emil once again for helping me out with those. So let's jump right over into the BL Heli Configurator on Mac now that I have that app. It's pretty nice. And let's see what these ESCs have. Alright, so here we are. So I'm just going to plug the USB into the quad here with no battery. Just plug it straight into the flight controller. And then hit connect here. Making sure you have the right COM port selected. If you don't have the drivers, I'm just assuming you already do. It's the same ones you use for Betaflight. Oh, and then you have to, I forgot, you have to plug in your battery, so make sure your props are off and your video transmitter antenna is on so you don't burn it up. And then you can hit read setup here. And now this isn't true, I already had these set up because I was doing stuff with this, but let's just go if they were already brand new out of the box. So AH30 is these DYS XS30. None of these are named. I wish they'd get the names in here, but for now I just leave it what it says it is. And for the newest, we're just going to be flashing 16.5 because that's the one on top. I'm not sure if 16.53 is newer, but I'm going to flash the top one. I'm just going to hit flash because I hit flash all down there. So you can see it's just going to go through each of these and flash them, and it's pretty quick. Alright, so there we go, and I'm going to set the motor, the endpoints to 1000 and 2000. You can see the 1000 is already there, and the 2000, I messed that one up actually. It was already good, so that's good. They might have been there, so I go to 1000, 2000 here. I turn off programming by TX there, so we don't actually mess it up. Startup power, I go to 0.75. Temperature protection, I hit disabled. Low RPM on, brake and stop on, demag low, motor timing medium. You can just leave that as is, medium. There's a lot of debate on that. I just leave it medium. Beep strength, I like to put to 60. So if they go into beacon mode, which is where they'll beep after, if we set beacon delay to 2 minutes here of there's no signal, but it's still powered on, they'll start beeping. So if you lose it in the bush or the brush or in the long grass, you know, it'll beep and you can find it. You don't need a buzzer, but I wouldn't recommend increasing the beacon strength because you can fry your ESC, so I just leave that stock. Let me just come down here and hit right setup, and we should be good. So now let's disconnect here. Make sure you hit disconnect, and we'll hop on over to Betaflight. Alright, so here we are in Betaflight, so we're going to go over to the firmware flasher. I'm going to unplug the flight controller. I find it's easier to do on the computer end. And then I'm going to press down the button on the X-Racer, the flight controller here. There's a little boot button right next to where it plugs in. And press that down and hold it while you plug it in. Then you can let it go. You can see there is a solid blue light, which means you're in bootloader mode. So you're going to load the X-Racer SPI right here. I'm going to choose 3.01, and these are the ones you need to select: full chip, manual baud, and no reboot. And hit load firmware online, unless you have already downloaded it locally. But it's really nice with the Betaflight configurator. You can just load everything straight through here. You don't have to go searching for X files, then load that. But you can if you really want to. Alright, there we go. And just make sure it's the X-Racer SPI 3.0.1. And then hit flash. And there it goes. Just wait for that. It takes about 30 seconds. Alright, there we go. So I'll just go back to the welcome screen, and just for good measure, I like to unplug the flight controller and plug it back in just to power cycle it. And now I'm assuming you already have the drivers. If you were able to connect to BL Heli Configurator, these drivers here, or if you have the select right COM port. If you're hitting connect and it says successfully opened the serial port up here, you just have the wrong COM port selected. If it's saying failed to open serial port, you either have something wrong with your board, or you don't have the drivers installed correctly, or installed the right ones, or installed it all. So let's just hit connect, and there we go. And we can make sure everything's working. If we tilt the quad forwards, left, right. So yep, our board is just installed straight. There was no orientation swap, so we're good there. So you can hit calibrate accelerometer if you want. I'm not going to be using it, but I'll just hit that for good measure. So on ports, we're going to go over here to UART3 and hit serial RX, and then hit save and reboot, because we are using an S-Bus receiver on UART3 here. Configuration, I'm going to select the ESC protocol as multi-shot, because these are BLHeli-S ESCs and they natively support it. You don't need any special firmware. Let's see, I'm just going to leave these stock for right now. However, since we put 1000 as the minimum motor command, in here you can't have it 1000, it needs to be below it, so I just go to about 975. Going to select RX serial down here for receiver mode, and then scroll to S-Bus. I'm going to turn off VBAT since I don't have any of that set up. I never used it. And then here, okay, I'm going to turn the accelerometer off, but you can leave it on if you want. However, it will, if you take a look down here, your CPU load, I'm going to 8K, 2K stock, and it's 15%. You don't want to go above 25%. So if I go to 8K, 8K, I'll just leave that here, and the accelerometer, I'll leave the accelerometer on, and then I'll turn black box off, air mode on. I'll name this the 210R. Just to show you real quick, if I hit save and reboot, watch the CPU load. Okay, 59% there at 8K, 8K with the accelerometer on. So that's way too high, because it'll spike over 100 and it'll cause a death roll. So if I hit accelerometer off and save and reboot here, 35%, but that's still too much. So 8K, 4K right there, and that should bring us down to about, I think, 14%. Okay, so that's plenty fine right there. So now we can move on to Failsafe. I always set these to 4 and 4 just so it drops real quick, but also give your receiver, once you have it bound, a quick tap on the button. The LED will flash green and it'll set the Failsafe, but make sure your throttle is centered all the way down and your right stick is centered in the middle, so that way it just drops. And we have it there, because you don't want it to hover down. It's not going to work. Just have it drop. PID tuning, I'm going to leave the value stock, obviously, since we haven't flown it yet. But I'm going to change my rates. I like to put these at 110 and 110, and then 80, I think. Do I do 110 here? Yeah, I think I do. So that's what I get there, 1100 degrees per second. Pretty medium high rates, I'd say. Leave the TPA alone. So over in receiver, we're going to get our transmitter here. And I'm going to actually hit disconnect on Betaflight here. Unplug, so the receiver is not powered because it powers it through the flight controller. I'm going to turn on my Tyrannus. And I'm assuming you know how to set up your switches and everything. Radio, I'm not going to go over that, but I'm just going to hit bind on here. I'm going to hold the little button wherever it is. Button's over here. Alright, I'm going to hold the button and plug it in, and we have a solid green and a flashing red, which means we're good. Exeta bind, unplug, replug, and now we have solid green, so we're good there. And for the failsafe, just give it a quick little tap. You can see it blink, and we're good there. So now we have a flight controller and a receiver failsafe, so we have a double protection, so that's good there. Okay, so we can hit connect again back in Betaflight, go back to the receiver tab, and now we should be getting all our channels here. Make sure everything's centered. Looks like mine is pretty dead. Moving just a little bit. Pretty rock solid there. Pretty solid. Looks like my yaw is jumping a little bit, but this is an old Tyrannus. So that looks good. And then if you set up your switches, I've only set up an arming switch because that's all I use, but you can check them here. And you can use a little preview box just once again to make sure everything's moving the correct direction. So I didn't change anything, but I'll hit save anyways. Actually, I'm going to add 2 deadband into both. See if that... Yeah, okay, now it's rock solid. It gets that little tiny jitter away. You can see the preview here. So now into modes, I set up air mode as a feature in the configuration tab. So it's always on, so you don't have to turn it off. And for those of you worried about landing, just disarm right before you hit the ground and it won't do that little bounce thing. So if I flip my aux switch, aux 1, which is set up as channel 5 on my radio, that's aux 1 because the first 4 are for your motors. You can see it moves this little slider, and I'm going to move this over, and it will arm the quad when I have the switch in that position. And I don't have a beeper. That's the only thing I have to set up, which is really nice about acro quads. And okay, servos motor. Okay, so down to motors here. So I'm going to turn off my radio so we're not getting any signal from that. And I'm going to plug in my battery. Once again, make sure your props are off. Okay, understand the risks. Props are off. And I'm going to click on the master slider and I'm just going to tab up. Looks like I might want to set my 950 minimum command because these start pretty close. I'm just going to tab up with my arrow keys until the motors all start spinning smoothly. You can see they're twitching. Alright, there we go. Very, very low RPM. So at 989. So you don't want to leave it there because you could have a stall. They might stall in flight like that with a loaded prop. So at 990, let's go up to, say, 1010. It'll give us about, what, 20? Yeah, about 20. Alright, so 1010 seems pretty good, so I'll go back to configuration. Here we go, and just hit 1010 right there. And I'm going to lower this to 950. It doesn't really matter as long as it's far enough down. So there we go. Motor should reboot. And now just to test things, to finish up, because we're pretty much done here, turn on my radio, and let's arm. Yep, got that there. And we'll give a little roll. Pitch. Yaw, everything looks good there. So let's arm. I'll give a throttle just up a little bit, and I'll shut my radio off. Alright, so it looks like my failsafe's not 100% correct. You can see it went down to idle and then killed it. So I might have to fix something, but I think that's pretty good there. Let the board, there we go. Yeah, it goes down to idle for just a second, but that's pretty good. So now we can unplug, and we should be all good. That should be fully set up there for the ZMR210R. So stay tuned for a line of sight video coming soon, and then the PID tuning tutorial. I'll be doing another one on this, so you'll have good PIDs for that in just a little bit. Once again, the Thingiverse files for the download if you want to print your own, or you can order it printed from somebody if you wish. For the camera mount, a 30 and 45 degree version for the GoPro Session, and the SMA connector out the back, since they give you the right angled one in the kit. So we can hit the disconnect here, and I'll also leave a link down below to my Patreon if you wish to help support the channel. Thanks to all my my patrons from right now. It's really helping out all your donations. So yeah, please subscribe if you want already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.